You know I like saying it. I can't not do it, folks. We have a busy show today. Coming up on it, we kick things off with fun summer experiences that you can take part in with Amy Amantea. What exists out there for off-grid power and communication solutions that'll keep you connected and safe? Outdoor expert Lawrence Gunther has us covered with that topic. And BBQ season is back. Chef Mary Mammoliti is here to help you kick it off right with tips on cleaning, prepping, and grilling like a pro. Get that grill ready, man. I'm waiting for my invite.
This is Kelly and Company.
Well, as I said, we've got to really get things running today. Kelly MacDonald here, host of the program, and glad you, wherever you are, checking us out via YouTube or listening to the podcast or AMI audio, where you can find us several times, replayed each episode starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. Nizreen Abdul-Majid joining me on the show. Niz, lots to get to today.
Lots. So let's get to it.
All right, here we go, folks. A statement was released by CNIB the other day, a bunch of partners involved in this as well, supporting people with disabilities regarding the new federal cabinet appointments. From the May 13th statement, CNIB recognizes the recent progress made having a representative in cabinet speaking on disability rights and issues. It has been so beneficial to the disability community. Prime Minister Mark Carney's new cabinet, without a minister or secretary of state solely responsible for disability inclusion and accessibility, is incredibly puzzling and concerning. We recognize the context in which this government was elected. The recent election was focused on serious threats to our country, particularly our relationship with our closest neighbor and partner. However, we also recognize the threat posed by dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility policies within government institutions. These values are foundational to programs that support and employ people with disabilities, and we can't allow them to be sidelined. We now welcome back to Kelly and Company Diane Bergeron, Head of International Partnerships at CNIB. Diane, welcome back. Sorry it's under the circumstance, because we really need a bit of a call for action, but more so awareness on the part of our constituency out there. This must have been a concern for CNIB and partners before the picking of the new cabinet, because this statement came out right away.
Yeah, the cabinet was announced on Tuesday, and it was really quite a shock to us. We've had for the last 10 years or so, we've had a minister that was directly responsible for disability issues within government. And look at all the things that happened in the last year. Minister Qualtrough got the Accessible Canada Act in place. We got the Canada Disability Benefit. The Canada Inclusion Action Plan. There's so many things that are happening in government, but that's because of the fact that we had a minister that had the lived experience, which was fantastic, and understood the benefits of things that were going on there, but also could speak on behalf of people with disabilities and make sure that when things were coming up at cabinet, that this was part of the discussion, and that is no longer in place. And it's a much smaller cabinet, and I understand that. However, this is a big miss, I believe, and hopefully it was just a glitch. Hopefully the Prime Minister will recognize that this was an oversight and will come back and do something about it.
Yeah, it really feels
really
like a step back rather than a step forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When there's been ministers before that were responsible sort of off the side of their desk, which is kind of what's happening now. It's the issues are going to be buried within somebody's portfolio and within their mandate somewhere down inside a bunch of other responsibilities. And as we all know, the things that are done off the side of the desk get done last. And we really need somebody that's going to sit at that table and not just talk about Canada Disability Benefit and so on, but when they're talking about housing, somebody's got to be sitting there saying, housing, excellent. What are we doing about accessible housing? What are we doing about employment specifically around people with disability? What are we doing around adaptive equipment and We're talking about trade right now, constantly about trade. Don't hear anybody talking about the cost, the increased cost of somebody who uses a wheelchair or a braille display or something else that somebody with a disability needs. There's nobody talking about that at those tables. We need somebody to make this the forefront.
Exactly. And is there anything you can tell us as to the plan to press the government on this issue?
Yeah, the disability organizations across the country are going to be sending letters, either individually as organizations, but also as a group. We want to show that we are all in line with this, that this is something that's really important. And so we are going to be out there talking to our members of parliament and pushing the Prime Minister to rethink this and come up with a different way forward. Because without this, we're going backwards, not forwards.
Yeah.
Right.
Diane, I'm kind of curious because over the years in the history of the CNIB, CNIB has served a purpose to support so many of us with disabilities. I look at the organizations that are currently on the list, and a lot of them had more of an advocacy piece in their world. It is really nice to see CNIB being able to have that role. This coming out so quickly on behalf of CNIB and partners, to me, is such a welcome. We know what Canada recognizes the CNIB as, and we need to see the CNIB with its strength and the skill, the knowledge of yourself and so many others speaking up like this with the advocacy piece. Is this working out for CNIB? I know you've got to kind of balance it out with partners, with government, because there's donations and government supports that you also got to think about for all the other things CNIB does.
Yeah, the reality is that there's times when you want to sit back and be more strategic, and then there's times where you want to get out in front of it. This is one of those get out in front.
Yes.
And I think, again, every organization is going to have their own take on this, and that's their prerogative, right? This is something that CNIB has stepped up and said, this cannot happen. It is a priority for us right now to make this happen. And other organizations are going to also, as you saw, there's other organizations that have signed on a support to this. And
there's a lot.
Yeah, and I think the disability community as a whole, those of us that have disabilities, we're the ones that are going to suffer, right? When you talked about, the current what's currently happening in the United States with diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. Yeah. To me, this is removing the DEI file from the Canadian government, and we cannot do that. We absolutely cannot remove this. I'm concerned about the Canada Disability Benefit. We've already seen provinces saying, oh, well, if the federal government's going to give this $200, and we've said in the past $200 isn't very much money per month for somebody, but if you're not making that much money, that $200 could be your grocery bill and or your power bill or whatever it is that you need. So it's very important for those individuals to have that extra $200, and we've already seen, for example, Alberta has already made the statement that they will be clawing $200 dollar for dollar from their disability benefit. So Albertans are now no longer going to benefit in any way from the Canada Disability Benefit. We need a champion that's going to stand up to that and say to provinces, that wasn't the purpose of this. This was to help people with disabilities come out of poverty, not to keep them where they currently are at the status quo, and to help governments. This is not subsidizing a government. It's supposed to help people with disabilities. And we need that champion at the cabinet to do that.
Yeah. Well, we went for a while where it seemed to be disability issues were making the media. We're all over the place. People were talking. People were saying, oh, I understand more about the problems here. Oh, I get it. And the public was hearing about it. Now it's almost like a window's closing, and we do need somebody to keep the heat on the feet of our governments.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think there's around 8 million of us in this country. We vote. We have the right to speak up. And that's what CNIB wants. We want people with disabilities, people who care about people with disabilities, to speak up and say, this is a significant portion of the population. They need representation at that table.
Diane, absolutely, thank you. Thanks for jumping in with us today. And any closing thought that you have for us?
Yeah, you know what? I always think about this from the perspective of disability. Ability, people with that are fully able-bodied, That's a temporary state. This great community of ours, known as the disability community, is this wonderful little society. And people without disabilities any day at any time can become a member of that group of people with disabilities. And I think it's important to remind people that when that happens, they can reflect back on the things that they did today. And if they're not fighting for us now, who's going to fight for them later?
You bet. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Diane Bergeron joining us, Head of International Partnerships at CNIB, talking to us about the recent release that you can find on the CNIB website, drawing attention with partners to the fact that we don't have a seat at the table, as she put it, when it comes to Carney's new government cabinet. Email us here on the program at kellyco@ami.ca. You can give us a call. Give us your comments, too, on anything we speak about on the show. 1-866-509-4545.
At Small Town Summer Festivals, nostalgia is always in season. With some of the coolest local festivals to explore across the country, arts and culture contributor Amy Amantea shares the festivals where every corner has a fiddle, a food truck, or a friendly face. Ames, what is it about the Small Town Festival that people just love?
Well, good morning to you both. I don't know. I think the idea of a small town festival is just that. You go there and it's like seeing your neighbor all everywhere. And it's kind of like going to a party where you know everybody. That's kind of the idea of a small town festival. I really like going to them because I know that if I have an access need, there's a pretty good chance that people know me in the area or have familiarity about, access needs or relations to disability, as you're just talking with Diane about, because of the advocacy that's done in the community around disability issues, because those local festivals are usually part of local close-knit communities. So you know who's in your community. So I think that has something to do with it.
How often do you go?
You know what? I always find myself at whether they're festivals or not, but little summer markets, or sometimes they in little pockets around my area, they'll close down a street and make it kind of a walking street, and they'll do so specifically down in an area in North Van called the Shipyards every weekend in the summer. Yeah, they close that down. It's right on the waterfront, and they have like a little festival environment, and they have, booths set up for crafters and, food trucks and artists and a whole bunch of stuff. And you just go down there, and there's always people down there. I feel like I'm Norm from Cheers. That might be an outdated reference for how old I am. But I bump into people all the time down there, and they're like, "Hey, Amy, how's it going?" And it's really quite nice when you're down there. For me, it is, because
it's almost like they can see you better too, right? They can see you better. Oh, Amy, you're over there, as opposed to the crowds at a big fair or whatever. But also, people are more relaxed. Even if they don't know you, there's more of that time and home feel. Because you could go to a strange town and go to a small event such as a fair and really like that kind of feel. And I don't know. I think if you're on your own, dividing up, if there's a few of you that went, but you all want to go check out your certain things, as silly as it sounds, it's probably more accessible for those of us moving around with our mobility skills. Have you found that?
Yeah, I think because you're likely already familiar with the area, like for me, the Shipyards is basically in my own backyard, right? So whether it's a festival environment or a place that I've traveled in my lifetime for the last 30 years of living in this area, I know the area really well. So I don't feel as uncomfortable there as if I were to travel, to Chilliwack, which is an hour away from my home, or to another province to visit a festival and then go, well, I don't know anything about this area. So, where am I going to find this building or that venue or bathrooms or anything like that? So there is a different level of comfort when you're in an area that feels local to you, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be shy, really, about it. When you go to a place, everybody's asking, so what are you selling? What do you have? Or, hey, you have food? What do you have here? So I think sometimes we get caught up on that. What festivals should people check out?
Well, of course, it's the beginning of festival season because the weather starts to get nicer. So, there's a whole bunch of small town festivals across the country. And the other thing about small town festivals are they're usually pretty open to people who aren't a part of your community. So don't be afraid if you're visiting somewhere and you're like, oh, cool, there's this little festival. I'm going to check it out, because they're very welcoming because there's such a personal nature to them. So I did a little research because I often dream of traveling to these little local festivals because I love the idea of them. So if you happen to be in Saskatchewan, there is a place called Martinsville. And they have a little festival called the Martinsville Busters Day. And it runs from June the 5th to June the 8th. I mean, come on. If you can't enjoy a festival called Martinsville Buster Days, what can you enjoy?
That got me hooked.
Right?
I wasn't sure if it was Busters or Busker. It's kind of like, oh, is it like, the restaurant Buster? Or I had to stop for a moment. And I looked at, hold it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, where did
both
the
would be
name come
cool.
from?
Yeah.
I'm thinking we need to start our own festival called Busker Day.
Yes.
Days,
Busker
because
Fest, Busker Days.
Busker Fest. I think that would be pretty cool. But this is Buster as in, well, Dave and Buster's, but it's not Dave and Buster's. It's not American. So this is Buster Days, running early June, 5th to 8th. And so it's a whole weekend. It happens every year. This happens to be their 40th anniversary. So you can see how fantastic the community loves this. And it's pretty darn fantastic. So here's kind of a little blurb about it. It says it started as a small town get together with a ball tournament, and it has turned into the event that they know and love today. No one knows where the name Buster Days actually came from, but legend has it, I love this, and like a small town blurb, but legend has it that one year the event was a total bust, and the name just stuck. So it evolved into Buster Days. So the city does this, the city of Martinsville does this over a weekend. And here's just a list of some of the events. It's a huge list, but there's nothing on this list that I probably wouldn't do. Okay, so here we go. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there's swimming, there's a slow pitch tournament, there's other sporting events, there's fireworks, there's a parade, children's activities, live entertainment, food trucks, beer gardens, a fire fit championship. So they watch firefighters do things that firefighters do. I invite you to do that. Puppy pose and stretch. So you get to walk with your puppies and stretch with them. What else am I looking at here? Pancake breakfast, horses and wagon rides, a friendly farm, a traveling friendly farm and zoo, indoor markets, street hockey fun day, money pit. Okay, a money pit is where they bury little bits of money in the sand, and you go digging for it. So that's fun. A superhero training day for kids. Come on, a princess and prince tea party. I mean, if you're a kid, there's so much to do here, right? So they've been really creative in trying to figure out what you can do for all ages in your family. So
we're still stuck on the money pit or the tea party.
Listen, when I was a kid,
I like that.
When I was a kid and my dad's work, company used to do a family day for work stuff. They used to have a money pit. And so they would put popsicle sticks in the ground, and they would put money amounts in little Ziploc bags and bury it. And so you'd have to go find a popsicle stick and dig up the popsicle stick. And then in the bag was little bits of money. And so I swear to God, finding a baggie with 2 nickels and a quarter in it was the greatest excitement ever. And sometimes you'd find a baggie with paper money in it. Yeah. Yeah, it was so much fun. And I was, I don't know, 8 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah, now it's paper money. Forget about
Canadian
coins.
Tire money.
It wasn't actually. It was real money. It was real money.
How big of a space, Aim?
Canadian Tire money. Okay.
I know, I did too. It was all, Oh, go ahead, Aim. How big was the space?
They would do this at a park. And the reason why they put popsicle sticks in the ground was because they didn't want any money not to be found. So they didn't want to leave the park and have money left buried in the ground. And so that
takes leaving the money on the table to a different term.
Literally.
Leaving it in the sand.
This particular Martinsville Buster Fest Days is going to have $300 buried in the sand. So I think they use a big sandbox, but they're going to bury $300. Yeah.
All right, that's great. Okay, what else
I
you
know,
have?
right?
That is really cool.
This one's kind of fun. This one is in New Brunswick. I hope I don't get the name of this wrong, but it's Miramichi. Anybody been to
Miramichi.
Miramichi?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, because I've never been. It's on my bucket list. Miramichi, New Brunswick, and this one's called Steady as She Goes. Like as in steady as she goes, but it's spelled CHI as in cheese, steady as she goes. And it's a beer and spirits festival. And so for $70, you get a sampler goblet, and you get to walk around with this glass that you get to keep with, etched in with the name of the festival. And you walk around the festival and you taste different varieties of craft beers and premium spirits, all from local vendors. And of course, they've got live music going around. And like, it's just a festival environment again, where you meet people. It's all locals. And once you get to know all the local breweries and places that make spirits, obviously the hope is that, you come back to these various these various vendors, and you enjoy their spirits over the course of a year, and not just during the festival. But you can imagine going with a group of friends and sitting outside and listening to music, and the kind of music that they have is incredible.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is for the parents that want to get away from their kids for a bit.
And to bring the tourists in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
that's kind of neat.
Every city pretty much has some kind of, like in West Vancouver here, where I live on the North Shore, we have Beer by the Pier. It's the same kind of idea down on the waterfront. Again, these are considered small town because West Vancouver is a small town on the North Shore. But they're all local people that will, close their door, like you said, after dinner. Bye, kids, leaving you with the babysitter, and walk to the venue because it's not far, and they don't have to worry about driving home. Although they do have it's not a company, but it's like in Christmas time. I don't know if you all do this in Toronto, but we do this here in Vancouver. At Christmas time, there's
Market?
it's like a reindeer ride share. So people volunteer, and
wow.
they will,
Drive
they will,
people.
so there's two people in a car, so they will pick you up, and one person will get your car and take it home, and the other person will take you home, kind of thing. So there's it's a volunteer service, so you don't have to worry about drinking and driving. So they have something like that at this festival too.
I like that.
Yeah. I love these kind of festivals. You think about, and when I say that, I mean, I'm not a real drinker, but I mean, the whole fact of people coming in, getting a chance to just, settle back, especially when you can look at the lake, look at the ocean or whatever, as long as you don't end up drinking enough that you end up in it. But things like that where you have that ride kind of system, or people are smart about it. But mostly it's just what it does for the town, and people relaxing and bringing people in. Unfortunately, and we know alcohol brings people in, but the businesses need it.
Yeah. And the ticket's only $70. So if you were going to walk around and taste stuff. Now, of course, when they talk about sampling alcohol, it's, a half a finger's worth of alcohol in your glass per vendor, because they don't want you to get smashed. And I'm not a big drinker either, but if I was going to drink something, I would much prefer it to be from a local vendor, from my own hometown. Yeah, exactly. Support local than some big chain somewhere. So
and like you just said, Aim, it's samples. I like that too, because there's just too much. You can't be promoting go hammer up and go. It just creates too many problems. But if someone on their the next day says, I really liked what I tasted from, hey, I'm going to go over there and get a case for home. That's their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the stuff that these folks are making are like extremely interesting flavors. Like there are like stuff you would never see. It's real craft, real art, like artisanal type of beverages, right? So you're never going to find that stuff on a shelf in a liquor store anyways.
What are some highlights to expect from this festival?
From this festival? I would just say the highlights are going to be like, good friends, good laughter, good music, good spirits.
What kind of music? I'm curious about what kind of music they're going to play here.
Oh my gosh, they have such a huge genre of music. I didn't recognize any of the artists, but they have I don't know, like weird. I don't want to say weird, but it's just that I haven't heard of any of these kind of like clashes of like country hip hop. And like, it's like, who puts country hip hop together? It's really, but like really eclectic kind of stuff. So if you go on the website, there's a huge list of artists and types of music that I just would never have thought go together in terms of genre. It's like country, folk, emu music, and you're like, how do those, like, how's a band listed as those three things? Yeah, but they are. So it'd be really interesting to check out. But the one that's got really cool highlight musics is the Pantôme de la Musique, which is Quebec's Old Quebec, which maybe isn't the smallest town ever, but they have a 10th anniversary coming up from May 16th to 18th, and they do this unique blend of music and heritage, and they feature over 18 concerts in various historic and sometimes unexpected venues throughout Old Quebec. So it's a bit of an experience. It's like guided musical strolls that intertwine the rich history of Old Quebec with live musical performances. So it's really like this interesting way to kick off the summer festival season. And I think you know, they take you through, and I've never been to Old Quebec, but they've got a lot of heritage buildings out there. And if you're going on this tour and you just are walking in these various historic venues and historic areas, and they give you a little history, and then they play music that's relevant to the history of those areas, like what an experience that would be. I think that's a really unique type of festival. So if you're in that area or visiting that area, I think I would encourage people. That's one I would really be interested in taking in.
That sounds super fun. Thank you so much, Amy, for bringing these festivals to us.
There's festivals everywhere you go and every weekend of the summer coming up. So find one somewhere and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Enjoy the weather. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, friends.
A great way to kick off the summer festival season. Thanks for bringing these to us, Amy. Folks, get out and enjoy a local festival near you, where you'll leave with sunburn, pockets full of handmade goodies, maybe some money, and 5 new friends, possibly.
What would you use to dig in the sand? Would you use just your hands, or would you have to have gloves?
No, I would. Well, as a kid, I would use my hands. I would get messy.
Oh no! Do you think they'd drag you out of there if you jumped in the sand as an adult and started to dig in there? Like, you know, if it's for the kids, get out of there. I wonder if they'd pull you out.
I feel like as an adult, I quote unquote adult, I guess. I feel like I get so grossed out for sand being in my shoes or anywhere on me. I don't know, but I still play on the swing, by the way, Kelly. I'm sure you can picture it. But I think people do as adults. It's if you're getting on the darn slide, that's when they got to yell at you, get down. Yes, nothing to be ashamed of.
Something, though, we're going to get into a good talk with Lawrence in a few moments, but I want to bring Mark Aflalo on for a second. Mark, before we started the show, you brought up something pretty special to most of us that we need to think about, and that's some people say Gad, some people say God. A day is upon us, and looking at technology and celebrating it on the accessible levels.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Global Accessibility Awareness Day, it was founded, God, how many years ago, by Joe Devon and Dennis and Assumption. It's something that's celebrated across the world. I mean, on Double Tap, they spoke to Sarah Lunger from Apple. They're celebrating some pretty cool announcements, and everybody likes to talk about it. I mean, it's great that there's a day, but I think it's more about raising awareness for it all the time, not just on this day.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago on the show, and we've had Joe on the show. Haven't had Jennison on. Jennison being a Toronto boy too, gone to a few different events around Toronto with Jennison before he moved out to Frisco, and have had some amazing talks with him about technology, and just these guys really have it going on, and we're so much better for it, and the creation of the day, just incredible. So do something for it. Mark, do you do something particular for it other than remind hosts of Kelly & Company that the day is here?
Really, it's just about talking about it, Cal. It's really about making people aware of what it is and what it's about, especially to those people not in the community that really are wondering, well, what are you talking about? You know, it's about educating those people and making sure that it gets more than just in the community and really gets into the mainstream.
You bet. It's really great. Thanks, Mark.
That's the best way to do it.
It is really spread the word in all aspects, whether it's on social, whether it's doing what we do, or just talking to a friend or learning about something is really always, I find, really amazing, because there's always something we don't know about that makes our lives easier. Remember to check out our podcast from your platform of choice and give us a rating and review. We appreciate that. If you subscribe to our YouTube page, that would also be really nice and really appreciated. Lawrence Gunther is the director of the new Bluefish Canada Research Centre and knows a thing or two about powering up technology and communicating off-grid. He's here with what's new, what works, and what's coming. Let's find out what you can do to stay connected and powered up during your next great outdoor experience. Hey, Lawrence.
How you doing?
All right, sir. I know you got lots to talk about today. This is going to be a great, interesting, I hadn't really thought of having talk, but we know there's so much out there. So is it the case that we can stay powered up and connected just anywhere we go nowadays?
You know, the term off-grid has all sorts of connotations, right? Do you have connectivity with your cellular provider? Is there internet in your area? Is there electricity? You know, this is what off-grid means. It used to mean you had none of that. But that's not the case anymore, right? You've got all sorts of ways of generating electricity on location, whether it's wind or solar or even a handy dandy little portable generator, propane power generator that the power recharge your batteries. You can bring your power with you. There's all sorts of mobile power options out there, anywhere from 20 amp hours, 10 amp hours, all the way up to 100 amp hours that you can carry with one arm and power your day or your whole weekend, no problem. And then there's ways of connecting too, right, to people through your smartphone that doesn't involve cellular connectivity, that doesn't involve buying some expensive satellite plan. So there's a bunch of options there, and happy to dive in on those a little deeper.
Yes, please.
Okay. So one thing I noticed right away is that, there's more and more people talking about their cell phones getting satellite connectivity. So this is something you want to keep an eye on. It depends on the version and your provider, and but mainly the cell phone provider. So, if you buy now an iPhone 16 or higher, you will have satellite communications. You can hold your phone and point it straight up into the air, away from trees, but you don't have to be completely away from trees, and it'll say little left, okay, straight up, okay, satellite acquired. And then you can send a text message. It's not going to be in real time. It's going to take maybe 30 seconds to be sent and received, and people can send you text messages as well, including emojis, but no videos, no pictures at this point, just straight text messages. And so that's really nice, just to keep in touch with your loved ones. Hey, I'm here, got here okay, everything looks great, all settled in, kind of thing. Or what are you up to? Hey, what are the kids doing, kind of thing, So there's you can check on them. So that's a nice feeling. And I tell you, this came in handy for us once this winter. I was snowmobiling into the cabin with my wife, and we tipped the snowmobile, and she got her leg caught underneath it, and I managed to get the snowmobile back up. Yeah, but she was worried about her leg, and she had never been thrown off a snowmobile before. Like, just so you know, if the snowmobile is going over, just leap away from the snowmobile. Don't hang on. Don't put your foot down, because if you put your foot down, the thing's going to ride right over your leg, right? Anyways, so the first thing she did, she took out her phone and sent our daughter a text message and got a reply right away. And then she felt, okay, we're not alone out here. I don't have to depend on Lawrence and his white cane, because we didn't have the dog with us. We're not going to make the dog chase the snowmobile in my guide dog. So it would have meant, going back down the snowmobile trail with a white cane and hopefully staying on the right trail and not veering off on some other trail and going who knows where. Right. So this is a safety thing. But she had that connectivity. I packed some ice into a Ziploc and iced her ankle. and she was sore for a few days, but no serious damage, and we were fine. We did cut our visit short. But yeah, so there you go.
But this gives you that peace of mind that the communication is there if you need it. I know so many people used to be, no, I'm going off grid. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want. But then there's sometimes the lack of logic. It's one thing when someone decides to move and stay off grid, and that's the way they're going to be, a hermit or something like that. That's one thing. But when you say, well, no, I just need to get away from my phone. I need to get away from the television, whatever it might be, you still got to be smart about it. Lawrence, I'm curious on. I heard GM's working on revolutionary batteries, and one of the things mentioned, hey, maybe for if you run out of power at home, these batteries in future will be able to do stuff. But right now, we focus more on the solar power that we've got and energy storage, especially out in your places like your cottage or whatever. What do you want to speak to regarding this?
We're in northeastern North America. It's a lot of trees. There's a lot of trees. So how many trees are you going to cut down to get your solar? Like if you're living in the southwest U.S., out in the Sahara, there's no trees. You got solar energy, 14 hours a day, 12 hours a day. Your big challenge is, what do I do with all this electricity, right? and put it in some batteries.
Sell it to some other country, right? That's what they do, right? People sell.
Well, if you're on a grid that allows you to upload electricity, but there's not a lot of grids that allow you to do that. So you got to just you got the the power, and if you're off grid, you just got to use your power, or you're not going to use your power. But up for us, you get your solar when you can. In the winter, their options are much fewer. So another option is wind. And wind can be a little tricky because you have to be there to manage your windmill and your turbine. And in powerful storms, that can get you need to fold in the blades so the turbine doesn't spin too fast and burn out. So you have to watch that. And again, trees, right? You need like you all remember the windmill on the farm. You drive by an old farmhouse and there's a windmill as tall as the barn or higher than the silos, and the blades just gently turning, and it's usually pulling water or generating electricity. Whatever you attach to the end of that windmill, you can do whatever you want. But if you're near trees, you need to be well away from trees because the trees slow the wind down. Trees slow the wind down. So then you're into, okay, we're going to fire up a generator. And are you going to burn gas? But they have these tri-fuel generators now. You can burn propane. It's quieter, maybe not quite as efficient, but it works well. Limited CO2, much better than gasoline, and you can charge up your batteries. You want to make sure you're using your battery a little less when you're generating your own power, or you can bring your power with you, right? You can bring. They have these beautiful portable power packs now. Like everyone thinks, the one you put in your knapsack to charge your phone. No, they've got these big things now. They're the size of picnic hampers, and you can carry it. And it's got built-in inverters, so you can turn it into 120 and plug in 120 type outlets into it, and it'll last you a weekend with that kind of power at the campsite. So you can do whatever you want. It's just amazing, and these things are coming down in price like crazy. Now we'll see what happens with tariffs on China and everything, but right now China's been flooding the market with really inexpensive lithium batteries. So what used to cost you $1,000 is now down to $200 or $300 for a nice big lithium battery. Now, don't necessarily get the biggest battery you can afford, because lithium batteries like to be between 20 and 80% charged. They don't like to charge them up to 100% and then you bring it down to 90 and you put it back up to 100. That's not great for the battery. You want to keep it around between 20 and 80. So if you're cycling between 20 and 80 or 30 and 60, that's perfect. And then, when you're finished for the day, don't charge the battery back up. If it's down around 30, just leave it there. And just before you go, bring it back up to full charge, take it with you and cycle it down again. That's a happy battery. They do not like between 0 and 20, and they're not happy between 80 and 100. So just keep that in mind.
And none of us would think about that, eh, Nisreen?
Yeah. What's funny is that we're not, our family are not much of people that camp. We're not really campers, but we do go to a lot of parks in the summer and go for barbecue. So we spend the whole day in a park and we play games and we have a barbecue, but my dad has to bring that big charger that you're talking about. It's pretty big, but it's portable and very convenient, even though we're not spending the night or anything, but we tend to use it a lot. So it's so useful.
Yeah. They are so useful, and you know, they can be handy, right? Like if the power goes out, you can charge a few things, you run a few things, and they're not going to break the bank, you know, buying them. You know, a good one that might last you the weekend that you could plug in a small appliance, you know, here and there. It might cost you $600-700, but it'll last you 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing when you think about the cost, when you think about people building places and they'd say, well, I'm building a cottage out in the woods. I want that backup generator. I want that power. You know, what it used to be. And when you talk this way, Lawrence, wow. Anything in closing, sir?
Well, you know, the cost of generators has certainly come down. You go to Costco and for $700, you can buy a 10,000 watt generator that'll power your house, and you can do it on propane or gas. It's quite these things have come down in price by 90% for sure. So it's just amazing. You know, don't be afraid to go off grid. Just think about how you're going to communicate in an emergency. There's always going to be an emergency at some point. Always have a fallback plan and a plan for your fallback plan should that not work. 2 plans.
Fantastic advice, sir. Always great to talk, Lawrence. You take it easy. We'll talk to you next month.
Thanks, you guys. Have a good day.
Outdoor expert Lawrence Gunther joining us with tips and tricks about being outside to survive and thrive in nature. Always appreciate talking to him when we get a moment or two every month here on the program. We're looking for members of the disability community to join our AMI research panel. Our research panel guides us with every decision that we make here at AMI, including programming, media consumption, and accessibility. Participants are compensated for all long-form studies. For more information and how to join, go to ami.ca/panel. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us, Kelly and Company, on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly & Co. AMI. Again, Nazreen would always love to hear from you out there, and we'd like to keep the conversation going, and always a lot of fun on Instagram and Twitter.
So my dad calls me up right before the show, and he's super excited about barbecue season. Okay, he's making plans already. He's talking about, okay, this weekend, next weekend, let's plan barbecue season. Okay, so yes, the barbecue season is obviously here, and we're all pumped up. Absolutely. Before you fire up the grill, though, Chef Mary Mammoliti is here with smart tips to prep your barbecue and easy grilling tricks to kick off a sizzling season. Love that. Mary, it's been a long winter for most of us. I mean, a long winter. Okay, let's start with the basics. What's the first step to getting our barbecue back in action for the season?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm with your dad. I'm so excited about barbecue season. I love barbecue season. So it's also because then we get to split the cookie between me and Frank. But
do you go to parks too, Mary, or is your season out in your backyard?
It's everywhere. We do go to parks, but we do spend a lot of time in the backyard. Anywhere where I can bring food, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm there.
Me too.
So what I want you to do is just give your barbecues a little TLC. All I want you to do is give it a good clean before you start anything. Now, if you've already started grilling, don't worry about it. You still have time. You can do this. This is what we're going to start with. A big bucket filled with hot water, dish soap, and a degreaser. That's important because then we're going to start cleaning the grates. Get those grates, flip them over, and then use a wire brush to scrape off any old grease residue, and then drop those grates into the bucket of the hot water and the cleaner solution. You're going to let those soak while you're getting everything else cleaned up. If you have rusty grates, they're worn out, it might be time to replace them. This is the time. Do it now. And next, we're going to go to our flavorizer bars and our heat plates. So you're going to use a flexible plastic putty knife, scrape off any caked on grease, Don't forget the underside, because that tends to happen. So those are the plates that they're kind of like a triangle without the bottom. So like an arrowhead is what they look like.
Oh, okay.
And at the bottom of the grill. And you take those out, there are 2 of them, and then you just scrape those off, anything, and those drippings that fall on it, and then pop those into that same bucket with the grates and let those soak. Once you've done all that, now you've cleaned everything out of the grill, right? So it's time to clean the inside of the grill, because you want to make sure that you got that all nice and clean. The walls of the barbecue, that's where we're going. So you're going to get that degreaser, you're going to spray it on the walls of the barbecue. You're going to let that sit for about 30 seconds. And then if there's any baked on bits, I want you to grab one of those wool scrubber pads. Do you remember those little round stainless steel scrubbing pads?
Nazreen's best friends.
They're amazing, and they're great to have on hand. Use one of those. It breaks everything up if those harder to reach areas, or even to get out with the degreaser. You want to get a little elbow grease in there. And then
I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to barbecue cleaning, I'd rather clean the tongs and the plates or whatever extras rather than cleaning the barbecue itself. I always make an excuse to get away from that. I'm like, I gotta go inside, clean the dishes.
I used to not mind when I had a barbecue, but the reality is I would never do it as well. Like what Mary's saying, well, really?
Yeah.
A degree? Really? A bucket full?
That's
Oh, we did it the hard
season.
way, right? I'd stand there working away. Oh, boy. Okay.
Right, so once we've done all that, wipe it down with a spray bottle filled with water. You want to spray the inside and then use a microfiber cloth to wipe everything down. Make sure that all that cleaning solution is gone. And then we go over to our buckets, scrub those grates, the plates with a bristle brush, rinse thoroughly, set them out in the sun to dry. And now we're going to start assembling everything back into the barbecue. Check your drip pan if it's cracked, if it needs to be swapped out. And then just place the parts all back in. If you have a cast iron grate, put a little bit of a canola oil or vegetable oil. You want to season that because it'll prevent it from rusting. And then finish,
good.
use a degreaser or a stainless steel cleaner on the outside of your grill, and you're done. That's it. And the good thing is, like I said, this doesn't have to be done every time you use the grill.
No.
Season opener.
But keep up on it when you are using it. Clean it out when it cools, as it's cooling off. But what about your jets? I know a lot of people say, hey, man, you got to be careful, especially if you end up leaving it somewhere and it's outside enough or accessed by spiders and so on that might get inside the jets if you know, depending on your unit.
That's exactly it. And that's why you do the deep clean.
Right.
Because you want to make sure that you're removing everything.
So you're keeping in mind that area particularly because you don't need any cobwebs or anything causing kickback. Okay, so Mary, we love the good checklist to keep us on track here. Can you walk us through your BBQ Seasoner Open checklist, right? What's going to happen?
Okay, so this is perfect. This is all you need to remember. And what's great about this checklist is you can do it. You can enlist the help. I always enlist the help of Frank, my husband, because he's great at it, but also he's my eyes. You can also use apps like maybe Seagate Eye or Be My Eyes to assist you in this, because we are going to be checking certain parts of the grill. And that's where I really need a little bit of assistance with that. And like I said, it's fun because barbecuing, you get to split everything. So the first one on the list, clean your grill, which we've already gone through. So we've already done through that step. So we've already got one check mark off the list. Next, check the fuel. So make sure that your propane tank is full, your charcoal supply is stocked. Next, you want to inspect for safety, which is what Kelly, you and I were talking about. Quickly, you check for any leaks or any damages in the hose or connectors. Next one, stock up on essentials. This is important because you want to make sure you have your foil, your aluminum foil, your tongs, your grill mats, mitts, canola oil, or vegetable oil, whichever you use for your grates, and then cleaning supplies. Keep those handy. A little spray bottle is always good to have for those flare-ups. Test the ignition. So replace batteries if your grill has an electric start. You want to test that because you don't want to leave that to the day when you're going to grill and then all of a sudden you've got the meat on, everything's going, and you can't start it. Season your grill. Again, like I mentioned earlier, cast iron grates, apply a little layer of oil to season them. and then test heat zones. And this is one that a lot of us do not do. So you light the grill and then you test for even heating over your zones. How I test that is similar how I test the stove for heat, is I'll keep my hand well above the plate and just wave my hand over top and feel for that heat to make sure that it's actually evenly distributed.
Yeah. I love that. So we've cleaned, we've prepped. Now we're ready to cook. What should we plan for our first barbecue of the season?
All right, kick it off with something simple, a simple menu, because it lets you test the grill and it tests the performance, right? So the first thing you want to do, main. Let's select a main. Let's do maybe grilled burgers with some caramelized onions, a little bit of cheddar. That's always good. I love cheese on my burgers. You guys like cheese?
Yeah, me too. Oh gosh,
Yes,
have to have it.
love it.
So addicting.
I cannot have it without.
It's
like
good.
I'm missing something.
Smoked meat or
Then
bacon's nice too.
Oh, that's good too. I probably should have eaten before the segment, honestly. I usually try to.
Well, you do this to everybody. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Now it's happening
Come
to
on.
me. What about a veggie side? Maybe some grilled corn you can put on the cob with a little herbed butter. So instead of just straight butter, add a little herb to it. Maybe dessert, some grilled pineapple skewers are always delicious.
Oh,
And then drinks, I like to keep it simple. Picture of iced tea, lemonade. It's casual, it's refreshing, and you get to enjoy everyone's company.
Right.
Yeah.
Mary, is there a food you don't enjoy doing on the barbecue?
Yes.
Whether it's due to mess, due to flare-ups, due to
Share.
whatever.
There are a few. The first one that comes to mind, grilled watermelon. Oh my goodness. It is a textural thing for me. A lot of people love it. I am not a fan.
Is it
Have either of you
just
tried
like
it?
the process of grilling it or eating it?
Eating it.
Okay.
I can
So
grill
I've-
you up
I've-
anything you want, but that I cannot consume.
I've only
this
tried
season.
Go
it
down.
I've never
like a
tried it.
few months ago at a all-you-can-eat Brazilian steakhouse, and they were offering grilled pineapple. It was actually good, but I can't have too much of it. Like my tongue
So
It's a
starts to
textural
feel
thing
weird.
for me.
So
It's a
yeah,
textural
because
thing,
pineapple and watermelon would texturally be similar, grilled barbecued like that. Okay, but Mary, is it a mess
Actually,
to
no,
do it?
because
No,
the
it's very different?
watermelon, yes, the pineapple, it's tough. So the pineapple has those,
Right.
so it maintains its crunch ability, let's say. So when you bite into it, you get a little give. But the watermelon for me, it's just mush. The way I feel it in my mouth, that's the way it feels to me.
Yeah.
Okay. And you do that. Do you take the outer rind off, right? And throw it on the grill, or do people do it with the rind?
Both.
Cut it up.
Both.
Okay.
If you cut it into slices, you can keep the rind on.
Okay. Anything else you want to label as something you don't like to eat, or something that, as Niz pointed out, that you just don't want to cook on there, that you find it messy, it creates flare-ups. It's something that even Mary says, this is a drag to clean up.
Fish.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
There are
Like the
certain
process of
techniques
it. It just
yeah.
Yeah.
There are certain techniques that you can do to grill salmon, trout. But for me, it's a bit of a pain. I guess it's on one of my lists to kind of master by the end of the summer, but I don't know if it's going to happen. It's just, if you use one of those cedar planks and grill the chicken, or sorry, the fish on there, maybe a grilled salmon on there, it's nice. And it's easy enough. But for me, it's the fish. And I think it's also making sure that I catch everything on the spatula.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before I turn it. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
that's
would
what
be
I would
mine.
think. Because I
That
used
would
to
be
do that.
concerning. I feel like it would be flaky and a bit messy. So I love grilled fish, but when it comes to the cleaning process, it's a pain.
Because things stick, right? It sticks. You
Exactly.
gotta really, the skin starts to do its things. I mean, I know some people would just throw it on in tinfoil, wrap it, but almost then you're asking, what's the point?
But those are actually, that's a nice alternative. To do an aluminum pouch. A little
Right.
pouch for
Especially
the
if you
grill,
put
and you
the
put
cedar, if
everything
you
in there
had-
with your seasoning. Yeah.
if you had your cedar and anything like that, or smoke, that might be fine. What about people using the smoke stuff, Mayor? Is there any difference with it that they, if they have the thing they want, I want it to have that barbecued smoky, if you don't have a smoker? Is that a little
If you don't
tricky?
have a smoker, the good thing about that is you have to like smoked food. There are some people who just absolutely don't like it. They like the char of the grill. They like that charcoal kind of feel. But when it comes to smokiness, that's hit or miss for some people. So you can actually get it really, really strong and really potent. But I do like a little, I do like a little smoked meat. So to do that on the grill is a lot of fun. It's easy enough. So you just have a little container to the side and it smokes and you put your chips in there. But again, it's a preference. It's dependent on what the person likes, their likes and dislikes.
Great. Thanks, Mayor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thanks.
Now I'm craving mashed potatoes, potato salad, and corn. Thank you so much. For more of Mary's recipes and tips just go to marymammoliti.com or at Kitchen Confessions on Instagram and TikTok.
Looky, it's that time of the day for people to go out and start their barbecues. We finished up just in time. Go do it, everyone. Nazreen and I will be back tomorrow. And on the show, Deafy Vision is a unique annual fundraiser organized by the Mira Foundation. Over 35 blind or blindfolded drivers race around a professional track guided only by their co-pilots. It's a fun, powerful way to raise awareness about disability and inclusion while raising funds to support the training of guide dogs and assistant dogs. We'll learn all about it on the next edition of Kelly & Company.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly & Company. Follow us on all social media and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.